Here's Balke and Blummer.
What's up, Astros fans? Jeff Balke here. Blummer's off today, so just want to do a quick update before the weekend. Be sure to follow us at Believe in Astros on Instagram and X. You can find me at Jeff Balke and Blummer at Blummer27. Astros took 2 of 3 from the Orioles, who've been very, very good. And we're now back home for the death spiraling Angels. Listen, isn't it great that a team that sucks so bad just decided to be buyers at the deadline? What the hell were they thinking? That was moronic. It's also Hall of Fame weekend. Bill Brown, the former announcer, as well as legend Bill Doran, will go into the Astros Hall, both very deserving. Get out there this weekend and go check it out. I think Minute Maid's going to be rocking this weekend. This whole year, Minute Maid has been packed. Kudos to the fans for showing up and showing out for the Astros this year. They're going to top 3 million for this year. One quick thing I wanted to get into was the discussion of Kyle Tucker's potential contract extension. Dana Brown, Astros GM, said this past week, the day after Kyle Tucker hit that 9th inning home run, that he feels like they're going to get it done and get an extension done, and he'll be a Houston Astro. He said, quote, "We'll get it done." Okay, that's about as blunt as you can get. I actually wrote a story in the Houston Press about this. The issue is not going to come down to whether people want Kyle Tucker to be an Astro. I want him to be. I think we all want him to be. And it's not going to come down to money. I don't think Jim Crane's going to balk and say, oh, that's too much money. He could balk and say that's too many years. Listen, they wanted to sign Kyle Tucker to an extension this offseason. They discussed it. Dana Brown said he was positive, he was optimistic about it. And then a couple of days later, he was like, not so optimistic about Tucker. That is most likely because Kyle Tucker wants a long-term deal. He doesn't want just money. Money will be there. He wants years. I was adamant that the Astros should not sign George Springer to a long-term deal. I was adamant they should not sign Carlos Correa to a long-term deal. I think the big question here is not whether or not the Astros should bend on these deals. It's whether they should bend on these deals for the right person, right? To me, it's all about age. Kyle Tucker's 26. If you sign Kyle Tucker to, say, 9 years right now, the Astros have never signed a longer than this. Jim Crane's Astros have never signed a deal longer than 6. If they go to, say, 9 years, that puts Tucker at 35 when he finishes that deal. That's still reasonable. People don't necessarily go off a cliff at 35 years old, assuming they stay healthy. It's still a risk, but it's maybe a better gamble than if you were, say, to extend, let's say, Alex Bregman when he's 28 years old. Now, Tucker still has 2 years of arbitration eligibility. This doesn't have to be done right away. But if you're going to sign him to a long-term deal, you need to do it while he's still young. If they're not going to be willing, look, if he wants to test free agency, which he might, and I've heard that that's really what Kyle Tucker wants to do, then he's going to do it. And there's nothing the Astros can do about that. And if he gets to 28, closer to 29 years old, and then he wants 10 years, well, then, of course, you shouldn't do it. I don't care who he is. It's a bad move by any team. A young player to 10 years, 100%. A player that's pushing 30, no. That's just my opinion. I think it's bad business. The Astros have done great by holding their ground, depending on the player, depending on the age, still paying big money out, making some mistakes along the way, but bringing up young talent to replace it. And I think that's what they're going to have to keep doing. Now, they did trade away 2 young right fielders, as Blumstradamus, sort of conspiratorially discussed while gently stroking his chin in our podcast earlier this week. But I think it's going to be all up to the Astros and the number of years that they're going to be willing to give. So we'll see. We will be back here next week with a brand new pod brought to you by BetOnline. I hope all of you guys have a fantastic weekend. I'll be in a house filled with my wife's high school friends playing pool boy and personal servant. So pray for me. And as always, go Astros.